I'm just Apple bashing.
Yeah, because embargo has lifted for the US people who are fortunate enough to have iPhone 11 review models, and a lot of them are saying it's the best camera on a phone right now, and Gavin was saying that is not a good enough reason to upgrade, and that's where we start the 53rd episode of the Overclocked podcast.
To buy a 5.8-inch screen phone for 20,000 Rand, you've got to be out of your mind.
But no one's telling you to buy that, Gavin.
No, that's the point. No one's forcing anybody to do anything. However, you are being marketed to like a sucker.
That you are. That you are.
And I'm shocked that you've bought in. You're convinced that this A13 Bionic chip is going to somehow make your life better. It's not. It's not going to make your WhatsApp any faster. It's not going to make your Instagram any faster. It's not going to make anything any faster unless you're trying to film through 2 lenses in 4K, and that makes you a 0.00001% of the population.
So firstly, I have it on good authority that 27th of September is our iPhone date.
Okay.
In South Africa, and
right.
I'm still feeling that the iPhone 11, not the 11 Pro, it feels to me like a 15,000 Rand max, 16,000 Rand device, and that's not 20,000 Rand.
No, it's not. It's not. I think a lot will depend on Rand dollar, but I think that in the end, they just price the product arbitrarily for what they think the local market can bear. I don't think ultimately it's directly related to a dollar value.
Because I also have it on good authority that the Apple TV Plus service is going to be 35 Rand.
I
per
see,
month.
which is based on a $5.
Which you can get for free. It's actually based on the rupee conversion.
Oh, interesting. The emerging market segment.
Yes, the discounts that we get for being poor.
But this is the whole point. We are the easiest market to capture because we make decisions based on price. So all you have to do is adjust your price. In the case of Apple, you adjust your price upwards in order to attach social status to the freaking product.
No, but they've set that standard, and now they've kind of lowered this entry point price
to what we think will be 15.
Yeah, 15,000 Rand. 15,000 Rand you're getting 90% of the bells and whistles. 99% of the bells and whistles, you're just not getting the wide angle.
80% of which you didn't need and didn't use in the last iPhone.
So they are now actually taking a hit on their bottom line.
I doubt it. I seriously doubt it.
They're leaving money on the table that they could have spent.
No.
They could have put their price up at 17,000 Rand or 16.5, which was the last iPhone 10R.
I tell you for nothing, okay? They have got like $1 trillion war chest. They could give the phones away at this point because they're not banking on phone sales to keep the company running. They're banking on services.
Yes.
So they're figuring on giving the phones away effectively in order to draw you into the services, which is their annuity income for the future.
Yes.
So I think it's scandalous that they can charge you 15,000 Rand for a phone that's half the phone of the equivalent Android phones.
No, it's not.
It is.
We will argue for days on end.
All right.
There are things you can achieve in the iOS.
That no one needs to achieve. No one cares. What we want is a big screen. What we want is battery.
They've improved the battery.
Oh yes, see how grateful we are. See how grateful we are that the battery now lasts a whole day. Oh, we're so okay.
Coming back to the Android, but I mean, this is
we're spending way too much time on this for a product that is technically irrelevant in the South African marketplace, in my opinion. Apart from the fact that it's sucking up all the revenue that could be going into other more useful areas of South African economy.
I'm saying that they've readjusted their business model to kind of leave some profit on the table.
Oh, please.
And try and get people locked into that ecosystem.
I'm not going to go into the fact that they have only inflated the price of the phone by possibly 1,000%. I mean, they've inflated the price of the phone by 1,000%, and now Lindsey's telling us we should all be grateful because this time round they've only inflated it by 800%. Oh, great! I can just feel the gratitude pouring out of my heart. Okay, fine. No, but we're giving them way too much time. Let's move on from these buggers.
Let's move.
Here's an interesting Apple story. See how we can't get away from them. Last week, the first bits of it's not legislation. What do we call it? Apple is now allowing vendors the right to repair using official Apple parts.
Yes.
So in the past, they would completely control how Apple phones were repaired. It had to be done through Apple authorized channels only. Now, independent vendors can source Apple parts and do the phone repairs for you. Whereas before, many of them were using pirate parts. I don't know how this is going to work out economically. I suspect there's still going to be a massive premium on those parts, but at least you'll be more or less guaranteed of the quality outcome.
And that's limited to iPhones, and it's limited to iPhones that are already out of warranty.
Right. Okay. Okay. So that's quite interesting. I mean, there's a much bigger argument there around the right to repair, which is a deep philosophical argument, but we'll get into that some other time.
In other news, in San Francisco, they just passed a law now where Uber drivers need to be treated as employees.
Tricky one.
Which is awesome. Because like Uber is one of the services where the rider wins more than the driver does.
Yes,
so the person actually doing the work is not winning. It's super cheap for us by comparison as the riders.
Yes.
But the drivers are really losing.
Are really not making much money at all.
They get no benefits. They get nothing.
And remember, they only get a slice of whatever you paid for that ride. Once you take off the wear and tear on their car and you take off the gas and you give Uber their amount, you can understand how much is left for the driver, and it won't be much.
I was actually in a situation once where I had to get, it was a long ride, it was a big trip. Obviously I don't carry that sort of cash on me, and the guy, I get into the car and the guy's like, this is a cash trip, right? And I'm like, no, I doing this through the app, like I always do. And he's like, no, but then you need to call a different Uber because I don't have any petrol. And I'm like, dude, I'm already on the edge of missing my appointment that I need to make. So let's rather go to the petrol station and we can turn this into a cash ride. Yeah,
I mean, if you're encountering a seriously happy Uber driver, he either hasn't been at it long enough or something else. Because I have to say the margins they're operating on are razor thin, and
but they're not
making tons of money for a ton of rides. Not for us, thank you. For a ton of rides, they are taking home probably well below the minimum wage.
I am more than happy, and this sounds horrible, to support that business because the software is so great and the service is so good.
So the problem going down in America is that Uber is insisting it's not a ride-hailing service like a taxi service. So they're trying to regulate it like a taxi service. They're maintaining they're just like a services company.
It's a ride-sharing service.
And they just connect drivers with riders, and they don't want to be a taxi company. And you can understand that, but no such thing has existed before, so they're struggling to regulate it, and they're trying to figure out how so many people can have jobs involving Uber while Uber pays nothing to any of those people.
But it's an interesting business case. When you look at like a company like WeWork, who are now expanding into South Africa, they do office rentals, they do those like hot desking and those sorts of shared spaces. So you pay a monthly subscription and you get some office space or a desk space and whatever size. But then they offer all sorts of things like free herbal teas
coffee and printing and things,
craft beers and stuff. Where there is no unique software that they've developed to. Their IP, the actual intellectual property of that thing is just, let's offer
booking system,
and then
merchandising.
And these services within the company, but it's still just leasing property like that. That's already so they've paid a lot of their leases up front at like a massive markup, and they're never gonna make that money back. Where Uber at least has the technology, their software, their app, and the software that they have developed to leverage and get that's worth something. If they have to sell out tomorrow, they can sell that to somebody and win back some money for their investors.
I mean, their valuation is now over $70 billion, something like that.
Yeah, WeWork actually was going to list at 50, and they actually halved that now.
True.
But they're still iffies if they're going to actually make it to IPO.
Okay, but I mean, we're getting a little bit into the weeds. This was just interesting that Uber's being obliged to offer people benefits as though they were employees, which is kind of interesting. We'll see how it plays out.
Then this circles back again to the streaming wars, where Apple can, because of their $1 trillion war chest, they can put the pressure on other services by charging bargain basement prices for theirs.
They don't need to make money off it up front. They just have to outlast the competitors.
Whereas like a company like Netflix again
is living from month to month from shareholder report to shareholder report.
But they also have the technology advantage. Like they're a technology company first, and they just deliver the entertainment. But it's all of that streaming and the dynamic adjusting of the quality of the stream.
I think that's all their unique offering. So it was tricky when you said Netflix is a technology company. I started wondering if they're a content company or a technology company, or if again, like Uber, there's an entirely new category of people who deliver unique content in a unique way, which makes them unique and can't easily be compared to a TV network or
Yeah,
Okay.
like managing the number of users that Netflix has simultaneously and keeping all those things on servers close to wherever and just reducing the latency.
Okay, so there's still a lot of tech in it.
There's a lot of tech, and that's what a lot of people don't really understand about these companies.
So in the upcoming issue of Tech Magazine, we interview Yolisa Khani, who is the head of policy for Uber in Africa. And her job is to go to each of these African countries and to figure out how to get the government and society in general to allow Uber to operate in those countries. Yeah. So she has to figure out how to sell it to each different culture, to each different business environment, which just takes some doing because they've all got different regulations. They've all got different services in place, like taxi drivers and bus drivers who are threatened by Uber. She has to figure out how to make it palatable for all of them, which is quite a tough job. But you can read about how she does that in the upcoming issue of Tech Magazine in the October issue.
So Gavin, you've been at the conference this week.
Yes, Gartner. Gartner are probably the world leaders in IT, what shall we call it? IT consulting to large corporates. But this means that all these guys have brains the sizes of planets. They ingest huge amounts of extremely complex information and then attempt to make it digestible for your typical CIO or even your typical IT journalist. It's high-level IT, kind of at the level of banks and governments and large international corporations. So they ask big questions, they come up with complex solutions and so on. And then inevitably all the buzzwords come out. There's a lot of talk about AI and so on. The one or two sessions I've been to, one of the more interesting developments that came out was something we've discussed on the show before, which is adversarial...
machine learning.
Yes, so adversarial artificial intelligence, where you have two instances of an artificial intelligence. They work with different data sets. Yeah. And they exchange data with each other until they've created a new form of data comprising the two sets of data. And the new form of data is then a unique product which can be usable. It's a little more complicated than that, obviously.
Yeah,
unfortunately, my explanation was not very good.
The two machines kind of second guess themselves.
Yes,
and they interrogate each one's answer.
They exchange data and interrogate each other to come up with an entirely unique product. Yeah, so that's been quite a big topic for me so far at the conference. Unfortunately, I don't have much to add to that at the moment. This morning we went to a business breakfast with Vodacom where we discussed their rollout of sort of the one network, where they take the fiber and the cellular and all sorts of other networks they have access to. They virtualize them into a single network and offer a customer end-to-end services through that, where the customer can, much like using web services, something like you can turn things on and off as required.
I'm big on that. Actually, today I got a phone call from Telkom because they're migrating users over to wireless instead of wired.
Yes, they're trying to switch off wired.
Obviously, you know the story already if you listen to the podcast. I live on a semi-rural area on a small holding. We only have a copper cable running overhead. We're never going to get fiber because there's a railway line between us and the network exchange, which is a massive exchange actually.
Just across the other side.
Just across the other side of the railway line. And that's like companies having to talk with other companies, Prasa and Telkom having to sort out their own stuff. That's a big schlep. We don't even have sewer services. We're rolling with septic tanks, man. So we're never going to get that service.
All right.
We only get Vodacom LTE coverage at our home. We're one of the lucky people. They actually had to erect another cell phone site further up into the area because people who live above a certain road level, they get nothing. So luckily Telkom now roams on the Vodacom network, and they have opened up. So they're going to migrate me, my 10 meg line, uncapped, for the same price to LTE. That I can roam on the Vodacom network, which is fantastic because at January every year, without fail, someone steals the cables and we're living without internet for 2 months.
Okay.
This is a far better solution.
Well, one of the other things that came out of the Vodacom breakfast this morning was I asked if they could offer such a service to corporates today, and if a large corporate like, the Woolworths Group or something like that decided they wanted to deploy these Vodacom services, are we saying that Vodacom has all this availability on its network that's standing unused and they can just turn it on when Woolworths and the Foschini Group and Old Mutual and Edcon all come on board with them? And their point was, well, most of the backhaul is still done on fiber, and most of it is not owned by them. They're renting fiber lines from other telecommunications companies, like Dark Fiber Africa is one of the big players. And they maintain that they can easily double and triple and quadruple and keep ramping up the amount of bandwidth they use on their fiber backbone, either by laying more fiber pipe through an existing pipeline or by speeding up, through software, the fiber capacity on the line. So they seem to think it's almost infinite, the backhaul capacity they can get from their providers. So that's quite interesting.
But I'm very fascinated because I've now benefited from two similar services. So I got that 10 gigabyte plan on Vodacom for, I think I'm paying 150 Rand a month for 10 gigabytes of data. And now my internet line, my home internet line, is being migrated for free, also onto the Vodacom network.
Yes.
I mean, through Telkom, obviously. So there is some deal that the two of them struck when the roaming deal got done.
Right.
That opened up almost near infinite, because Telkom has the most spectrum right now.
Yes. So Telkom owned everything until it gave some of it away.
Yeah. So I think the benefits of that is really starting to trickle down directly to me.
Let's remember that the reason Telkom is trying to migrate people off copper cables is because people steal them. They are horrifically expensive to replace and maintain and blah, blah, blah. So it really works for Telkom to make wireless broadband internet services much more affordable in the country so they can get away from these copper cables, which have limitations in how much data they can carry, and they're very expensive to lay and maintain.
That's all good, man. As long as I benefit, I am happy.
Okay, I'm going to throw one last bit of news in there. I mean, you can make of it what you will. A couple of weeks ago, Cell C defaulted in its payment to MTN for its roaming agreement.
Oh, wow.
And by the time it got the attention of the media and so on, they quickly paid the amount.
Yeah.
Okay, but for a moment there, Cell C just misstepped and didn't pay timeously its bill to MTN for roaming on its network. It's since come to light that Cell C might well be struggling financially. It got a huge investor earlier this year, or was it last year? Blue Label Telecom's a huge listed company, and I think it looks like Cell C is now looking for another investor because Blue Label Telecoms might need to withdraw some of its investment. We're not sure, this is speculation. That's what it's looking like. But it doesn't mean that Cell C is going to suddenly implode, but it does mean they are really battling to survive at this point.
That company's been imploding for a very long time.
Yeah, it's been struggling for a long time. It just shows you the third to market. You came to market substantially later than all the others. And it was just uphill struggle the whole way because the market had been snapped up by the first two. And you had to fight your way in.
I'm worried now for companies like Rain. Where yes, their offerings are great, but as their users have ramped up, their service, you don't hear good stories from them anymore.
No, you don't. Yeah, true. I've heard one or two bad stories.
You don't hear
it's tricky that.
Then they had to cancel that free data day thing that they had. And I'm very, very, and now with Vodacom offering decent value for once.
Does it mean that the plan was not scalable to start with, or does it mean that the people who weren't taking them seriously suddenly started worrying about selling them things cheaply because they look like competitors all of a sudden?
Yeah, and I think the big boys are starting to say, you know what, you guys are actually becoming a problem.
You're competing, and so we can't give you that price we gave you last month.
We're going to lock you out.
All right.
And that's
tricky. That day was always going to come, I suppose.
So, again, as long as I win, I'm happy. I'm not back to big horse.
I'm all about me. Yeah. Gavin, that's enough news.
This has been a fantastic actual conversation. These are usually the conversations we have before we start recording.
True.
So I decided to actually start recording while Gavin was in one of his rants.
Ranting.
And we actually managed to gain the attention of another patron at Brownies and Downies. Because we're back at Brownies and Downies, guys.
Yay!
This is like coming full circle. And I think that's a good place to leave it this week. Next week we can do how-tos forever. You can find how-tos on the magazine website.
Yeah, go to the Tech Magazine website, Tech Magazine Kozar. We've got how to do lots of different things. One of the things I'd like to discuss with you next week is an update on the, I'm not going to call it contactless payment situation, on the tap-to-pay situation. I want to take stock of the whole marketplace. You're so into it, I'm so not into it, but I'm seeing old people tapping to pay in the supermarkets, and I'm really intrigued by how to do it and who's doing it and why. No, don't get into it.
Downloaded the MasterPass app. So it doesn't do tap to pay.
Okay.
But it does both Zapper and SnapScan.
Oh, which are the two main.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I could buy airtime through it, and it doesn't ask for a PIN on the device. So the app is quite open. I was thinking it would do like.
Okay, but you're getting into it now. I want to discuss this next week.
But it uses the PIN from your card. Your MasterCard.
Oh, so it doesn't send you a unique token. You just use the PIN from the card. That's what
for
would
me,
make sense
that was
to me.
incredible.
That's what would make sense to me. That's why I was not impressed that I would work before.
Because the luck thing I have right now on my Samsung Galaxy S10
is you've got to get a unique number every time.
Is Samsung Pay.
Yeah.
Because it works everywhere. But if I can use something that allows me to use almost any phone and have that sort of level security.
Okay, but we're going to delve into this because I want to run a story in my magazine, and I'm going to just suck Lindsey's brain dry to augment the story I've already got planned because he's like the boss. Okay, fine. Right, we're done.
Cool.
We're good.
Yeah, thatopinionguy.co.za is where I live on the internet. That Opinion Guy on YouTube. I am Sharpshooters on social media, SHARPSCHUTTERS. And you can email us at...
You can spell overclocked, ZA, with all the vowels in it, exactly like it sounds, overclocked ZA, all one word, at gmail.com. There is a more complicated address, but I don't feel like reciting it without the vowels in it, blah, 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 blah. And if
look
you
out
want...
for us on YouTube.
Yeah, if you want your friends to catch up with this useful information, do direct them to YouTube where you can find us. Of course, we're on Spotify and lots of other platforms too, but YouTube might be the easiest. All good.
Cool.
We're done.
Bye.
Bye now.